thought it sucked.
Yeah.
I just I thought the product sucked. My goal was I was trying to be a musician. I was a wrestling fan as well. I think it was actually Jimmy Janetti who came up with the name the Hell Riders.
You guys are part of the first ever ECW.
In TV history, yes. They debuted the Dudleys. So a spot opened up. Those speeches, he would get that locker room so fired up. I was brought up and trained and kind of molded by Joe Goodhart. And then I got passed off to Todd Gordon. I ended up with Jim Kettner. And then finally he was like, how about we just do one show? We call it One and Done. I said, I'm in. Paulie comes walking up and he goes, holy shit.
Ladies and gentlemen, hosted by Coach C, Chris Sanders, this is Best for Business.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the channel. Another episode of Best for Business. I'm pumped for this one. We talked about it. I met you when I was like 12, 13 years old, and now I'm 20. Ragni, man, thank you so much for joining me for this one.
I can't believe you're an adult now.
I know.
You're all grown up.
I remember
Crazy.
It was such a big opportunity getting to sit next to you at the convention, man. So thank you for everything after all these years.
We had a lot of fun that day.
Yeah.
It's like so much has changed in my life since that day, which is crazy.
Wow.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I never asked you. I know you've done a few pods, but briefly, obviously, it's a different time than one for me. But for you, like, what was it about pro wrestling that sparked that interest originally?
You know, it's funny because in my teenage days, I really wanted to be a rock star, and
Mm,
that's what my goal was. I was trying to be a musician and trying to. It was the time of the '80s and hair bands, and
yeah.
that's what I wanted to do. But I was a wrestling fan as well, and um, it wasn't WWF at the time that was inspiring me to become a wrestler. It was the NWA,
Nice.
and every every Saturday at noon, I would be sitting in my bedroom watching NWA, and every week the show ended the same way on this crazy cliffhanger, and uh David Crockett would be hollering, "Oh my God, we're out of time, we gotta
Yeah.
go!" And I'm on the edge of my bed, and I would get that um, amplified feeling I would get like watching Rocky movies.
Yeah.
And I was like sparked, and I was like, oh, I want to get in the ring. I want to get in the ring. And then, years later, I was like, I was 20 years old, and I was like, you know what? Like, I don't know if the music business is for me. Maybe I should follow this wrestling thing. I was always a bigger, heavy set guy.
Yeah.
So, I said, I found a wrestling school.
Hmm.
Originally, I was looking at the Monster Factory, but then I came across the TWA Tri-State Wrestling Alliance School. I sold my guitars, my
Wow.
amps, got the money up for my down payment for school, and the rest is history.
Was it hard for you to give up on music? Because originally, like, that was the goal.
It
Yeah.
was, and it was something. It was weird because even after I initially gave up on that goal, um, about a year into my training in wrestling school, I broke my ankle,
Okay.
and I was out for like 6 months, and I ended up going back to music in that time because I was sitting around, and then some people came to me. They were like, "Hey, we're trying to put together a cover band. Do you want to be a singer for us?" So I was like rehearsing with them. And then another friend of mine who was like my best friend through most of my life, he was like, "Come on, let's put a punk band together." So then I was like bouncing around between two bands, and then when I was healed, I went back to the wrestling. And it
Yeah.
was weird. It was like a weird thing in life because I would flip a switch and shut wrestling off and go back to music, or I would shut the music off and go back to wrestling. And that was
Yeah.
kind of something that I did from the time I was 20 up until I was 40.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you talk about training, your trainer, Larry Winters, right?
My original trainer was Larry Winters and Ron Shaw.
Okay.
And Ron Shaw, he left early on due to his work life and commitments and family and all. And then again about a year into my training, like I broke my ankle actually in wrestling school.
Wow.
And then um I came back and then Larry Winters broke his ankle. So
Wow.
then he was out. And so then my trainers became Johnny Hotbody and Tony Stetson.
Yeah.
So they were like my trainers, and then the TWA went out of business, and the guy that really finished my training, one of my best friends to this day, who and also got me my tryout with Todd Gordon in ECW was Jimmy Jannetty.
Wow. So we're gonna talk about those names in a little bit when we talk about the petition, but I'm curious for you, like personally, whether it's the TWA or after with Janetti, what do you feel like are the biggest lessons that you learned from pro wrestling, whether it was inside the ring or outside from those guys?
But you know what? I say this to this day. Um, I've said this in many interviews. The biggest thing I learned in pro wrestling is something to not only use in the world of professional wrestling naturally, but really I crossed it over to everyday life, and that's respect.
Nice. Yeah.
Because at the time I was a 20-year-old like yourself,
Yeah.
but I was a cocky know-it-all. You
Yeah.
know, I thought I really knew it all, and I thought I was king of the world at 20 years old, and nobody could tell me different. And I'll never, I could still picture it clear as day as it happened. I was sitting on the ring apron after just getting done a little bit of training. And in the TWA at the time, they had just put the tag straps on the Black Hearts.
Okay.
And I was not a fan of the Black Hearts. I just didn't get it. And I made a snide comment, in the discussion. And Johnny Hotbody came up to me and he pushed me. He's like, "Who the f are you?"
Wow.
He's like, "Have you worked a match?" I was like, "No." He goes, "Have you been paid to be a professional wrestler and get in front of a crowd and work a match?" I'm like, "No." He said, "Well, who gives you the right to badmouth anybody that's doing that as a profession and being paid?" He's like, "You need to learn respect." And I was like, it really caught
Yeah.
me off guard and backed me up. And from that point on, I was like, wow, I get it now. And that that moment really taught me respect in the wrestling business and respect for any other fellow human being.
Yeah. So when you look at your career, I'm curious, how did the idea for the Hell Riders come to be?
You know what? That also too was a hot body and Stetson thing
Nice.
because um there was my partner HD Ryder who was also going through training at the time, and he was a true legitimate biker,
Hmm.
owned a Harley for many years. He was 8, 9 years older than me. He was actually in his late 20s, early 30s at the time. And they had his thing. He was going to be a biker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they couldn't figure out what they wanted to do with me. But I always also had that biker look. Even before the wrestling business, people thought I was a biker
Wow.
because I had a little bit of tattoos. I used to wear a biker jacket and the long hair, and people just assumed I was a biker. And I was like, no, I haven't even ridden a Schwinn in 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then they started talking about it and tossing the idea around. And they were like, and they started throwing the names out. They were like, how about, first it was going to be like CC Rider. And then they were like, well, no, he's got the Harley, so he's HD. He's HD Rider, and you're
Yeah.
going to be EZ for Easy Rider.
Yeah.
And I think it was actually Jimmy Jannetty who came up with the name the Hell Riders.
Nice. Now I
Yeah.
could be wrong. You guys are part of the first ever ECW, right?
Yes.
And are you guys the first match?
In TV history, yes.
So
Yeah.
what is that like? Like I don't want to say like how is it pitched, but what is it like for you to be a part of that like early on in that career in your career?
You know what? At the time, Eastern Championship Wrestling, those early days, um, it was so different from the TWA and what Joel Goodhart was doing.
Yeah.
I was a huge, huge fan and supporter of Joel Goodhart and what the TWA did and the hardcore style. It was very, very exciting. It gave me that pumped feeling like NWA did. And
Yeah.
also, too, it was definitely very much in the style of Extreme Championship Wrestling when it was run by Paul. So when Todd was running ECW, Eastern Championship Wrestling, he was trying to change the style and the image to be different from what Joel was doing and rebrand itself and give it a fresh start. And I've said this many times, and I've break Todd's balls about it. I thought it sucked.
Yeah.
I just I thought the product sucked. It wasn't as hardcore. It was more family friendly, and I thought the storylines, I thought the booking, I just thought everything about it was not good. But I was just happy and honored to be a part of it and be
Yeah.
there because all those people for the last 2.5, 3 years, I grew up in the business being trained by all these guys and was very close friends with them. So it was an honor. And then, once we start getting TV and all, I'm like, wow, this is like real serious now because
Mhm.
now we actually have we're on sports channel. This is
Yeah.
on everybody's house. So it was pretty weird, but I didn't even think about it at the time because it was just part of what was happening in ECW. And then, years later, as ECW grows to this iconic, legendary thing, it's like, wow. And, I still, to this day, 30 years later, it's weird. Like 30 years later, I'm more popular now than what I was then.
Wow.
And I get many wrestling fans. They'll message me, "Was that you in the very first match on ECW TV?"
Nice.
I'm like, "That was me. That
Yeah.
was me. I was a 23-year-old me before becoming a Dudley."
Wow. So I'm curious, when we talk about your training, whether it was TWA or you were thinking Monster Factory at first, what would you say when you first started, like the independent wrestling scene was like in general in your area?
Dude, the crazy thing is, I had no idea. And I say to myself, thinking about it, I don't know why I didn't know, but I
Yeah.
had no idea the independent wrestling scene even existed. I had no idea there was all these small little federations running every weekend, and I had just no idea.
Yeah.
And relating it to the music business, I say to myself, why didn't I know? Because there's a whole underground music scene of bands trying to make it,
Yeah.
and they're playing every weekend in bars and clubs, et cetera, et cetera. Why wouldn't there be the same thing in pro wrestling? Because
Mhm.
the two entertainment businesses are very, very similar and equally as cutthroat.
Yeah.
So, when my eyes got open to the indie wrestling scene, I was like, oh my Lord, this is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was because I was only used to seeing, WWF or at that time it was WCW shows, and it was more larger than life, and it was like you never would expect to be that close to the action or be able to meet people afterwards that are in the business. It was just very foreign to me.
Yeah.
So when I discovered the indie wrestling world, my whole mindset and life changed.
Nice. So when you talk about the Hell Riders, you gotta have a few pretty cool matches. The first one I'm
Yeah.
curious, is there anything that stands out wrestling? I think they were called Hot Stuff International, Snuka and Muraco.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a funny one. And that I think we were again the first team to face that tag team.
Wow,
And
nice.
and,
Yeah.
and Snuka and Morocco had, an iconic feud 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
And now, at that point, Eddie Gilbert decided to tag them up and make them part of Hot Stuff International. And I'll never forget, that was the second round of TV tapings. And you know, what a lot of promotions will do, and I'm sure you know this from
Yeah.
being around the business and with your dad and all, you get to the building and the booker will tape the lineup to the
Yeah.
wall. So when we saw Eddie go over and tape it to the wall, like everybody runs over to see what they're doing.
Mhm.
And we look and we see Hell Riders versus Snuka and Morocco, and me and my partner HD just looked at each other like, what?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Like so then you have to like do the walk, and we walk over to them and we're like, hey, what's up? We're working. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, brother. Don't worry.
Old
We'll
school. I
talk
love
about
it.
we'll talk about it. Yeah, yeah. And this was like 3 hours before the show time. So like 2 hours later, like we're sitting there like a nervous wreck. And we're like, do we go back over? Do we ask them again? So we did. They're like, nah, don't worry, brother. Don't worry. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. We're in gorilla position behind the curtain, getting ready to go out. And we're like, what are we doing? We're
Hmm.
like, they're like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We're gonna jump you before the bell, and we'll talk you through the
Yeah.
rest. The bell didn't even ring, and they jumped us.
Wow. Yeah.
And Snuka partnered up with me, and he grabbed me by the head, and he's like, "You dumb motherfucker!" And he started headbutting me.
Yeah.
I'm saying to myself, "I'm dead. He's going to kill me in the ring on
Yeah.
TV." You know what I mean? Like it was a. I can still picture Snuka like grabbing me. I was like, I'm dead.
Were you taught to like call on the fly or when you were wrestling, or how were you taught?
Calling the fly. Go, uh, do your opening, prepare your opening spot and the
Yeah.
finish and everything else on the fly. And that's the way it should be. I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah. My dad says it all the time.
it's funny because watching, WWE all the time, and I just sit there, I'm like, this whole match is completely scripted out. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way you're talking all this stuff out because it's just so off the wall.
Yeah. So I'm curious, is there a Hell Rider match or moment that sticks out for you?
The one I always bring up because when we were, we worked together as a tag team for a year. When we were, it was our first year truly in the business,
Hmm.
both green as freaking fresh grass.
Yeah.
And we got to work a tag team out of Baltimore called the Cream Team. And they came up and worked for Todd for a couple shows. And working against those guys who had been around the business for at least 10 years at that point, that one match alone just opened my eyes to the way tag team wrestling works because it's completely different than singles. Being able to you got to
Yeah.
distract the ref and doing this and that and outside and all that. We working that one match with them just was such a lesson in tag team wrestling, and I forever was put those guys over and grateful for that experience.
Yeah. So how does your journey go? How do you go from being the Hell Riders? You take time off from ECW, then how do you come back?
So actually, what happened was, Eddie Gilbert came in as the booker, after we got
Yeah.
TV, and he slowly started weeding out
Okay.
people that weren't good enough, like us. We were like I said, we were super green.
Yeah.
So he slowly was cleaning house, and he was bringing in big name guys and bringing, his brother in from and some others in from Memphis. So we got let go after the second set of TV tapings. So I got very angry and bitter because you know that meant a lot. ECW meant a lot to me.
Yeah.
Because I was at that point I was helping behind the scenes with promotions and advertising, and I would go and I would go down to Todd's office and I would get all the posters and flyers, and then I would go to the area where the show was and start papering the
Wow.
area
Yeah.
for. So, I really did a lot of behind the scene work, and it really, that was my heart and soul was ECW. And we got let go.
Mhm.
So that's when I was like, you know what? Fuck it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fucking now start my own promotion and I'm gonna go after you guys. And I started promoting shows, and a year and a half later, at that point, it's now completely different. Eddie's gone, Paul's running it. It's now Extreme Championship Wrestling. And Steve Richards, who I went through wrestling school with,
Mhm.
he's there now with Raven, and they debut the Dudleys. So they debuted the Dudleys, and after the first taping of the Dudleys, the little snot Dudley got hurt. So a spot opened up, and Richards called me, and he said, and it was funny because I literally saw them on TV, and I was like, "Holy shit, I look like a freaking Dudley!"
Mhm.
Like it was a natural thing. So Richards called me up, and he said, "Hey, we got this Dudley gimmick, and I think you would be a perfect fit." He's like, "You're interested?" I'm like, "Hell yeah!"
Nice.
So he said, "This weekend, come down to the hotel. I'll introduce you to Paul, and we'll talk about it." I said, "All right." So I met Richards, and we're in the lobby of the hotel, and me and him are talking, And Paulie comes walking up and he goes, "Holy shit, another fucking Dudley." Exact words.
Wow.
And he's like, "You have a tie dye?" I said, "No." He's like, "Get a tie dye." He's like, "What do you want to be called?" And I always wanted to be like a gorgeous Jimmy Garvin.
Hmm.
So I was like fluffing my hair. I'm like, Dudley Dudley. He's like, "Nope, not happening. Bring food. You're Chubby Dudley. Get a tie dye. See you this weekend." And
Wow.
that's how it happened.
Is there a Dudley moment that sticks out?
Oh my God. Every weekend was
Nice.
another time at the circus. But when the Dudleys, because the Dudleys for the most part were at that point comedy relief, and it
Yeah.
was just a comedy gimmick and a fun gimmick. And um but when Devon and Bubba really started doing their feud against each other,
Yeah.
um there was a tag match. It was Bubba and Big Dick against Devon and Axel Rotten. And we split up and we just went all we were like the opening match too. And we went all through the arena and tore the fucking house down.
Yeah.
And that moment that night, I said, "Holy fuck, this is
Yeah.
going to be big." And that was truly the changing of the Dudleys, the gimmick and everything. We were not considered a joke no more. We were taken seriously because I mean, those four guys, me and Sign Guy were just on we were their tour guides through the crowd,
Yeah.
like cleared away, but those four guys beat the living hell out of each other. And that hardcore ECW arena crowd, they gained their respect that night and it just changed everything.
Yeah. I know the atmosphere in general, but what would you say like the locker room was like the biggest difference from Eastern Extreme Championship Wrestling?
Eastern, it was way more subdued, relaxed,
Okay.
and like small family.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With Extreme, it was like this inflated, you had many big names
Hmm.
there. You had many future Hall of Famers. You had many local, you had the best of the best from around the world and locally.
Yeah.
And everybody was, again, family.
Hmm.
They all worked together. They respected each other. They got along. And it was an amazing team, team. It really was.
Yeah.
And everybody, those locker room speeches from Paul when he would stand up on those steps. And I think people saw it in one of those documentaries, but he used to give those inspiring speeches every um, arena taping. So
Nice.
every 3 weeks we would go back to the arena and do another set of TV tapings, and then we would go do house shows around the circuit. And those speeches, he would get that locker room so fired up. I mean, we would have committed murder. We would have killed each other, and
Yeah.
we did. And that was because of Paul.
Yeah. So I'm curious. I believe it says Chubby Dudley. You talk about loving the NWA. What was it like for you to wrestle? I know it's not as prestigious, but getting to wrestle for NWA New Jersey at the time.
You know, it it was, yeah, it was not to me
Yeah.
it was not prestigious at all
Yeah.
because it was not. And as much as Dennis Carluzzo, who was running NWA Jersey, as much as me and him were very, very good close friends, I used to break his balls all the time. I'm like, what the fuck? I used to say, what the fuck are you doing? It's not
Yeah.
the NWA.
Yeah.
I'm like, fucking get rid of it. It's
Because there was like
disgrace.
like hundreds of like branches that
Yes.
had.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, you guys are doing it. Like, it's not what it was. Like,
Yeah.
just let it go. Fucking, you guys are now like, in my opinion, I thought they were like um disrespecting the NWA and the
Mhm.
name. I didn't think it was being done properly. I didn't think there was a good product being put out there. I thought there was too many hands in the pot. It just was
Yeah.
not being done properly, I didn't think. And I didn't think it showed any true respect to the original NWA.
Yeah. When I talk companies, you got to wrestle for one of my favorite ones. What was it like wrestling for ECWA?
Jim Kettner.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, that's one thing I can like really be thankful for because I was truly blessed,
Hmm.
where I was brought up and trained and kind of molded by Joe Goodhart, who was
Hmm.
like a mentor and father figure to me.
Yeah.
And then I got passed off to Todd Gordon, and Todd, who at that time was also very green in the business, became this legendary figure. And then when I got let go from with working with Eddie Gilbert, I ended up with Jim Kettner.
Nice.
And at the time, Jim Kettner, he had his own little close-knit family of wrestlers that he trained every one of them.
Hmm.
He didn't bring in outside indie talent. And a friend of mine, I didn't even know about Jim Kettner or the ECWA, but a friend of mine said to me, he goes, "Hey, he goes, let me introduce you to Jim Kettner and his promotion." I'm like, "Okay, I'm looking for work." So he set up a meeting with me and Jim, and I went to Jim's apartment and we sat and talked. And he asked me to bring a tape of some matches, and I did. And he watched it, and he said, "I got a spot for you." He goes,
Nice.
I want you to come in as my monster heel, and I'm going to feud you with Boogie Woogie Brown." And it was weird because we mentioned how you watch WWE now and all those matches are completely scripted.
Yeah.
Jim is the forefather of that because Jim's matches, he would have his shows booked for a year out. He knew what all his shows were and every match on that show, and he
Wow.
had every match scripted.
Yeah.
So he said to me, he goes, "All right, come to my apartment on this night and I'll introduce you to Boogie Woogie Brown and we'll talk about the match." I'm like, "Okay." So I do that and I walk in and he hands me a script. I'm like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
And I start reading it and it's a fucking script. Like
Yeah.
lock up, arm bar, push into the I'm
Yeah.
like, "You're kidding me, right?" And he's like, "No." He goes, "This is how I do it." He goes, "This is how I know I'm going to get what I want out of the match. And this is how all my guys are trained. They can't call a match."
Hmm.
I was like, "Oh, okay." So it was kind of weird because I had to do that. And then the thing that sucks is if you get lost,
Yeah. Or
you know,
something
you,
happens. Yeah.
yeah, like, and it happened a few times. And, you know, those guys, some of them were not, experienced enough to be able to, they would just freeze because they lost their spot.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to pick it up or cover it up. So it was kind of interesting, but it was also very, um, amazing experience. And Jim Kettner, um, who I was blessed to be able to work with, Kettner was the one who um helped me start my promotion and taught me really how to put a show together and promote a show.
Nice. What was it about Jim Kettner's show that you think like he really helped you with?
Kettner, he was so ahead of his time. And he also too, he had an amazing camaraderie in his locker room. They were again a family.
Nice.
And they also they had such respect for Jim, but all those guys they didn't know what it was like on the independent circuit.
Hmm.
They didn't know they had the magic they had there because Jim, he was like a little mastermind. How many independent shows have you been to in your life where you've walked in and you're like, oh, there's like
Yeah.
30 people here, or there's
Yeah.
50 people here. I think the smallest crowd I wrestled in front of for Jim was like 200 people.
Wow. Yeah.
And he said to me from day one, he said, "Here's what I'm going to do. We're going to build up this feud." He's like, "And then we're going to do the final match of the feud at my big yearly show, which is like his WrestleMania."
Hmm.
He said, "And I guarantee you, you guys will main event and there will be 1,500 people there." And a year later, lo and behold, he nailed it.
Yeah.
1,500 people in this school gymnasium. I couldn't believe it. And
Yeah.
we were the main event. I was blown away.
Yeah. So you talk about your passion for promoting, but when did like the active ring end stop for you? What was your last match? And did you know it was gonna be your last match?
You know what? I knew in my ECW days as a Dudley that my true in-ring matches were um coming to an end
Hmm.
because I was realizing at that point, watching Paul, that's what I really wanted to do. I
Yeah,
wanted to be more of a booker than an in-ring worker.
nice.
So when I really in 1999, I restarted my promotion, and then 2000, I went balls to the walls with it, and
Hmm.
I really tried to make a go at it. And I started running every month, and then twice a month, and then it was three times a month, and I was going crazy with it. I wasn't really, some shows we would draw nice crowds, but for the most part, it was like shitty crowds.
Yeah. Was
So I
that
was
with
losing money.
Liberty?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was losing money hand over fist, but I'm pretty sure my true last match it was definitely for Liberty, and it was a pinfalls anywhere in the building against the Rock and Rebel.
Wow. So what was it about that match? You knew right? Do you know prior to that match you were done?
No, because I didn't know how much longer Liberty would have lasted, and I knew I would probably had, a match here and there.
Yeah.
I wasn't really pushing myself
Hmm.
as a worker in Liberty. I was more of a what the hell is it? Like a general
Yeah.
manager,
Personality in a way. Yeah.
of the company, the guy running the promoter of the
Yeah.
company. Um, but we had put started a feud between me and Rebel, and because nobody wanted to work with Rebel, nobody liked them.
Yeah.
So I was, and we were using his promoter's license. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm the one getting stuck working with him. So
Wow.
we started the feud with me and him, and yeah.
So I'm curious, when you first started Liberty, what would you say were like the goals with it?
In my mind, it was
Yeah.
and initially it was to be as big as ECW at the time, which was Eastern Championship Wrestling
Yeah.
at the time, but to give the boys another place to work because all the like TWA originals were now pushed out. We were
Yeah.
all given the boot. So we had, I wanted to give everybody a true place to work that was like home and family. And I wanted to pick up because like I mentioned earlier on, I did not like the direction Todd was going in,
Hmm.
but I loved what Joel had done. So I wanted to pick up where Joel left off. And I even started like naming some of my shows um what Todd or excuse me, what Joel's big supercard shows were. I started doing the same thing.
Wow. So I'm curious, if somebody were to ask you, is there like a match or a feud or a storyline or something that sticks out for Liberty? If somebody, is there a match that defines your company, you think?
Ooh, it's a good question. There was so many. I truly tried to make Liberty kind of like a hodgepodge. Like there was some high flying stuff, there was some old school stuff, there was comedy stuff, there was hardcore. So each show I tried to put a mix of all that. Um, I'll throw this match out there. It just popped in the top of my head. We had a match where it was my old business partner,
Hmm.
who at the time was wrestling as Super Cody. He was taking on the Mad Dog Cujo in the loser eats dog food match.
Yeah.
So we tried to mix some of that old school style
Yeah.
stuff in there. Yeah.
When did the idea for you doing the petition start? Because I remember you talk about the impact that Winters and Hot Body and Stetson everyone has on you. When did the idea for the petition start?
That started, it was like a year and a half ago. I was being interviewed on a podcast like yours, and they were a big fan of the TWA, and they brought up the TWA. And I think I had just recently seen um a banner was being hung at the arena for somebody, and it was like somebody who really wasn't person from the arena. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From the history of the arena. So I just went on a tirade of how, you know, these guys need to be shown respect. These were the true godfathers of
Yeah.
Philadelphia hardcore wrestling. They started the whole style, which turned into Extreme Championship Wrestling, which turned into the Attitude Era. They need their sunshine. They need their flowers. They need their props. Somebody pay these guys respect.
Hmm.
And then another podcast, they
Same
saw
thing.
it and they started
Yeah.
asking me. And then it just started taking off more and more. So then I was like, I started putting it out there. I started putting clips of these interviews out there from that. And it started gaining some interest. And people are like, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And then after like 3, 4 months, Joel Goodhart called me up. He goes, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Hmm.
He's like, what is your plan here?" I said, I don't have a plan. I said, my plan is maybe somebody will hear me and, as part of their show running the arena, they'll want to pay tribute to you guys
Yeah.
and raise the banner. So then he was like, "Well, how about we do it?" I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Let's restart Tri-State Wrestling Alliance." I was like, "Oh, hell no.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not." So then he kept on me for a couple weeks trying to talk me into it. And then finally he was like, "How about we just do one show? We call it one and done." And I was like, "Okay." Now I'm a little intrigued.
Hmm.
He said, "And we're going to do it a year." He goes, we'll book it for May 2025. This was May 2024.
Yeah.
I said, "I'm in. Let's do it." So
Wow.
then that's when we really put the ball in motion, started the actual petition page and started trying to get hold of people at the arena.
Hmm.
And then the arena was like, "Yeah, get 1,000 signatures and we'll let you hang a banner."
Wow.
And it took us, a good 10 months to do it, but we
Yeah.
did it.
Nice. So I'm curious, you ran a wrestling show, one and done, just for the petition, basically? Or for the banner to go up?
That's what inspired the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was
Yeah.
your goal with the show in general?
The goal was basically, I mean, it was Joel's show.
Mm,
And Joel wanted to, it's something Joel wanted to do for many years because
nice.
he closed up in January 92 very abruptly and then went into hiding for 18 years. But even though he was in hiding for 18 years, he never lost love for the business.
Nice.
Um, so now 30, 3 years later, the guy still loves the business and he deserved to give a proper farewell to the Tri-State Wrestling Alliance. And that's what he wanted to do. And I was honored to be the booker on it. And it was a very emotional
Yeah.
time and moment. And we worked on that show for a year. And yeah, it was an honor.
Yeah, that show was stacked. I was pumped to see the Backseat Boys against the Rock and Roll Express.
I but it was just released 2 weeks ago. There's a DVD now available, and it's also available video on demand. You go to Joe Dombrowski's
Nice.
website to order. I haven't watched it yet. I have to. I have to. I'm dying to sit and watch it because, in all honesty, I was sitting in the back of the arena at the gorilla position with the monitors and uh, watching everything and running everything from there. And overall, I was not happy with what I was watching. I had what I had envisioned in my head. It wasn't working out the way I wanted. And I was very disappointed. And I felt like I had let um, Joel down and the TWA down. So I was very bummed. Now, from what I hear, people are raving about the show.
Nice.
People loved the show that night. A lot of people were coming up to me. They saw the look on my face, and a lot of the boys in the locker room, they were sitting back there and talking with me. Especially Shane Douglas sat with me for a while, and he was like really, um, you know, trying to put me up and prop me
Yeah.
up. And people are just saying that they're like, listen, man, you hear the crowds popping. Just
Yeah.
because, you're the professional and you see not what you want to see,
Hmm.
they're seeing something different and they're liking what they're saying. So,
Wow. So I'm curious, when you talk about TWA's history, is there a match that stands out for you?
oh man, the iconic feud of Cactus Jack and Eddie Gilbert.
Nice.
It literally it changed my whole love for the business, and it changed my look at the business. It changed everything about the way I looked at professional wrestling. I wish, there is videos of those matches, but I wish it was like true, better quality with commentators,
Yeah.
like TV quality, because if people saw those matches, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Holy fuck. Holy fuck. Holy fuck. I mean, in one night, they did a 2 out of 3 falls. The first match was, I couldn't fall anywhere in the building. They did a stretcher match, and then the third match was a cage match.
Uh,
I mean, that whole feud was just unbelievable.
yeah. So I'm curious now, post this one and done show. What have you been up to recently? And when did the YouTube start? Because I love it.
The YouTube actually started like 2 years ago, and it started as um what I was doing was going through old ECW TV match by match and doing watch-alongs.
Yeah.
But I stopped doing it because I kept getting flagged for copyright.
Now, were you just taking them off YouTube, those videos, or did you have access to
No,
them?
no, off of Peacock.
Nice. Yeah.
So I would just, I would watch a match and, just do a reaction video
Yeah.
and give my thoughts on the match and any like insider information I knew on it, et cetera, et cetera. But I kept getting flagged for. So I stopped doing it, and then I started doing interviews, and now I'm doing um live recaps of WWE shows with Johnny Hotbody and some others. So it's like becoming a whole thing, and now I'm just like making the whole YouTube channel into me.
Nice.
And whether it's wrestling or music or whoever I interview or whatever goofy stuff I do. So um, at Chubby Dudley Official, go
Yeah. I'll
check
put the
that
link.
out. And what was the other part of the
Like,
question?
what's next, like for you? Any other
Oh,
upcoming plans? I know, no more one and dones.
no, no more one and dones. Well, it seems the one and done is one and never done because people keep talking about it, and there's some drama as
Uh,
usual with the wrestling business. There's a lot of drama. There's been a very bad falling out between myself and Joel Goodhart.
wow.
Um, and my focus right now is just trying to become a true content creator with
Nice.
my YouTube channel and my Facebook, and that's Chubby Dudley Official, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Do you have a favorite video you've done on YouTube?
Ooh, it's a good one. Probably my interviews because I started interviewing um, some of the true original ECW guys and
Nice.
TWA guys, and I got to pull some of these guys that nobody had heard from in 30 years,
Yeah.
and one of them being Stevie Wonderful, the original color commentator. And nobody had heard from him in 30 years.
Hmm.
We ended up doing a 5.5 hour long interview
Wow.
live,
Yeah.
live.
Love that.
And we were sitting there. I mean, we were both were drinking. It was getting emotional. There
Yeah.
were some tears shed. It was like a 5 hour long therapy session. It really was because, the wrestling business, it's not kind.
Mm.
And it really can mentally screw all of us up. And it
Yeah.
does. It does. It's a mind game, and you know, it leaves scars and wounds that last a lifetime.
Yeah. I'm curious. One thing I've loved about you since legit I was like 12 years old. When did you start like with the inspiration behind saying winning all the time for like birthdays and everything like that?
Mm. Charlie Sheen.
Wow. Okay.
When Charlie Sheen had his meltdown. God, I guess that was about 15 years ago. Yeah, I just thought it was hysterical. This guy was just having a complete public meltdown. He just lost a TV show that was like the top TV show,
Mhm.
and all he just kept saying was winning. Like
Nice.
you just lost everything in your life, and he was just like winning.
Yeah.
The guy didn't care, didn't let it phase him, and he was just still winning after losing everything. So
Wow.
just loved it, and I just started. I used it for years. I kind of stopped using it over like the last year and a half, but.
Yeah.
Somebody was like, dude, it's like so played out. Like, move on. And I was like, fuck you. But
Yeah.
then I kind of hear it very rarely. I'll pop it in there. But
Yeah.
then I'll see other people now use it. I'm like, fuck you, that was
Yeah.
mine.
I'm curious. I know the arena is iconic, but is there any other venues that stick out through wrestling that you've got to see?
Hmm. I went to WrestleMania 10 at Madison Square Garden,
Hmm.
but I didn't really get to explore it.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, that's probably the two most iconic buildings I've been in.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I'm like a total I like old buildings, especially like sports arenas
Yeah.
or stadiums. Like I'm a total mark for, and I can't tell you how many hours like I sit and I watch, especially like on YouTube, abandoned like
Yeah.
stadium
Yeah.
videos. I love that fucking
Nice.
stuff,
Yeah.
and I go nuts because I'm like, why are these buildings? They're iconic. There's
Yeah.
such history in these buildings, and they're left to rot, and they're knocking them down. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you destroying history? It drives me nuts.
Yeah. I want to thank you for joining me. However, I've ended every interview the same. Now, the day you decide it's all done with pro wrestling, which I don't hope is anytime soon, but the day you decide it's all done, what do you want your legacy in pro wrestling to be?
Hmm. The funny part is my legacy in pro wrestling. I didn't really do much in the ring. I did more out of the ring
Yeah.
than in the ring
Yeah.
to leave a legacy. And I was just lucky. I
Yeah.
was very lucky and
Nice.
blessed to be able to um look like a Dudley to
Yeah.
get that spot because the whole time I was there for that year and a half, whatever it was, I sat there every time saying, I am blessed because this is part of wrestling history. Like I knew it
Yeah.
as it was happening. I kept saying this is history. Like I'm
Nice.
a part of history. And 30 years later, it's like, holy shit. Like it's bigger than ever. And people still, I feel bad for the people that weren't able to be at that arena
Hmm.
during those times and moments to really, I mean, it was such magic.
Yeah.
Like I have chills just talking about it. Like
Yeah.
you can't, and you hear all the guys and girls from that era. You try to capture it in words,
Hmm.
and you can't do it. You just can't do it.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for doing this and thank you for everything over these years, man. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you, thank
Yeah.
you. I'm glad to see what you're doing, and you're growing up nicely, and
Thank you.
your family should be proud of you, man. I'm proud of you.
Thank you very much for doing this. And thank you, everybody, for watching this episode. This was Best for Business.
Thank you for watching this episode of Best for Business. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, because this is Best for Business.